of Vicki Fitch Live, A Fresh Perspective. I am so excited that you guys are here for episode 23. I have one of our favorite live streaming guests on today. I know that you guys know who he is because I know you've seen the show cards come out. I know if you've seen the show, you've seen him. I call him the chat box king. He is always throwing out fun, quippy things. He's very witty. He's very funny. And he's a doctor, right? That doesn't even go together. Like doctor, witty, funny. But Adam, I call him the bridge. Mr. Dr. Adam Nally is the bridge because he actually takes the craziness of being, the sternness of being a doctor and blends it in as a bridge to allow us to understand all those quirky terms. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my superstar guest, Dr. Adam Nally. We also call him DocMuscles. DocMuscles in the house. What's up?
Hey, Vicki, how are you? It's a pleasure to be on your show today. I hope you're doing well. And this is actually really cool. This really cool live stream stuff. I'm impressed by this.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It is a really great setup. And of course, I can thank Mr. Rob Hicks and Mr. Sam Gonzalez who are in the back room here, rocking it, making sure that you guys feel good in the green room, make sure we get in the green room and make sure that we can deliver a rocking great show. So I didn't do much of an intro on you because, Adam, I think people really do many of my followers already do know who you are. You are part of our entrepreneurial rockstar group. You are a top contributor to a lot of things, and you have really taken live streaming as a doctor. You've really taken live streaming and built something fantastic around it. And so we're going to kind of get to that. But I always try and do a little, a little question of the day. So we're going to start out with an easy question, but one that everybody really wants to know. Okay, where did the name DocMuscles come from?
That's a good question. I was in medical school, and the fun part was that in school, you're in class and you have time to go and work out. So I would go to the gym, and we'd end up working out at the gym. And one of the trainers at the gym said, if you keep coming in like this, you're going to end up being the doctor of muscles. And buddy of mine was with me, and we just kind of started teasing each other, and he started calling me DocMuscles, and it kind of stuck. And so a few years later, I remember sitting in a conference one day, and I was talking with some people, and they said, well, have you ever heard of this Twitter thing? And I said, no. And they said, well, you have to pick a handle. And so I said, well, a handle? Yeah, kind of like a name. And so I sat there for a minute, and just off the fly, I thought, well, what name? When I think of it, that name popped in mind. So I typed in DocMuscles, and it was actually available. And so I got the DocMuscles name on Twitter. And that was about probably 15 years ago. So that's where it came from. Stuck with it. I used to lift weights all the time. What ended up happening was I was in the military, and after a while, they make you run, and so we would run and be chased after with guns, and so. But anyway,
that's always fun.
It's always fun. I ended up. As I got further into life and realized that I had less time to be in the gym, I now throw bales of hay at my horses is what I end up doing. So don't lift weights as much, but it's actually fun, and the name stuck with me. So it's been a lot of fun that way.
Well, I love that. And so tilt your camera down just a smidge for us, Adam. Just a smidge, because, we want to make sure that those lower thirds aren't like dropping over your lips or whatever, because then, then we'll be making fun of you. And that would just,
It'd be bad, yeah.
Exactly. And I see, is it Jacques Lozon is in the house reminding us that you made bacon fashionable. I have to say, I know I love that about him. And we are going to talk about his bacon obsession in a minute.
Oh, yes. Yes. You have to see the bacon obsession. You can never miss that.
Right? It's just, it kind of builds on this whole thing. It's like, yes, bacon, bacon, bacon. So if you guys would do me a favor, those of you guys, thank you if you've downloaded this podcast from iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, wherever you guys have gotten it from, thank you so much. And I hope that you'll tune in to look at episode 23 of Vicki Fitch Live, A Fresh Perspective. You can find it on YouTube. You can also find it at facebook.com/VickiFitch1. DocMuscles will probably have it somewhere on his site as well. So we want you to check it out. We want you to see kind of the live behind the scenes stuff of what's going on as well as listening to what's happening here. So as we continue to, build on what's going on, we continue to look behind the scenes at DocMuscles and help him, where he's building that bridge for us. We want you guys to share this out. I want you to hit on Facebook, hit the little share button, and make sure that you share this out, because we haven't officially announced this yet, but I can tell you there's going to be a little giveaway tonight. DocMuscles is going to do a giveaway. So let's give him a hand. If you guys are in the chat box, I want you guys to put a 1 in the chat box saying thanks to DocMuscles for a quick giveaway. So, there's some cool stuff there, and, about that. And we were talking about groups, right? We're talking about I have a Facebook group, which you're a member of, and we're really appreciative that you're in there, called the Entrepreneurial Rockstars. And so we do a thing every week with a Rockstar of the Week. So we're just going to do the quick announcement here about that Rockstar of the Week, because we may have a special guest joining us in a little bit. So if you guys are not in the Rockstars yet, go to VickiFitch.com/freebies and click the link, join the Rockstars, because we'd love to have you. This is a group of entrepreneurs that want to give at least as much as they get. So we want you to join us and participate so you can, get in the know with people like that. And I see Darlene Chidley's in the house. I see Stacey Lynn Harp. I see Melanie Amila's here. So we've got a great group of people here, and I am so excited about that. So you guys join the Rockstars, come be part of our group, and then we're going to talk about Doc's stars, where he's the Ketonian king. So we're going to talk about that in just a sec. So why don't you tell us about being the Ketonian king and what that really means?
Well, it's interesting. I do a podcast with Jimmy Moore. It's called Keto Talk, ketotalk.com. It's Keto Talk with Jimmy and the Doc. And we were chatting one day, I think the second or third podcast that we did. And I was trying to think about, what do you call a person who spends their lifestyle living in ketosis? And so I used the term Ketonian one day. And interesting enough, Jimmy said, "Oh, that's not a word." And we had some banter back and forth about it being a word. Well, I all of a sudden started seeing Ketonian that day pop up all over Facebook, and I thought, "Wow, cool!" So I think I'm the guy that coined Ketonian, and so it's become kind of a popular word with the low carb world, and so that's where it came from. And so one of our listeners, and we have some amazing listeners out there across the world, she actually went and made T-shirts one day. And we ended up meeting us at a conference and gave Jimmy and I both T-shirts. And one of the T-shirts that I have says Ketonian King on it. So I've officially been dubbed, at least by one of my listeners, as the Ketonian King.
Well, we've dubbed you, so that makes at least two, and however many people are here, we're officially dubbing you the Ketonian King. So I love it, and I think that's part of your tribe is the people that are I've heard your podcast and you welcome them and say, "Hey, hi Ketonians," like I call my group the Rockstars. So I think that makes people feel connected and intertwined. I think people really like that. And I see Shelly Anderson is in the house, and she said she's been doing the diet for 3 weeks. So we're really excited about that, and we do thank you guys again for sharing this out and giving people an opportunity. So I want to tell you guys about a giveaway that we're going to do tonight. And so, Rob, that would be slide number 4, since we're skipping over that other one. But we're going to do a giveaway tonight. Adam is going to give away I think it's, and I might get this wrong, so you guys can't pin this on me. I think it's a 5-day ketosis. I'm going to let you tell them what it is in a minute, but this is how you guys get it. You're going to share out this broadcast, right? You're going to grab the link for this broadcast, and I want you to share it on Twitter as well as Facebook. You're going to tag at DocMuscles and at Vicki_Fitch with that hashtag Ketonian King. And at the end of the broadcast, we're actually going to do a tweet draw, and someone is going to win something straight from DocMuscles. So, and you know what? I'm going to make him sign the box for you. So you're going to have an autograph, a DocMuscles autograph coming to you, because I'm telling you, watch this man. You're going to see him as an international brand. You just watch. Just mark my words. If you don't believe me, you just mark my words. So, Adam, tell them what that 5-day supply of what they're going to get and how it's going to help them, because we're going to discuss more about ketosis and stuff in a little bit, but how's it going to help them?
So one of the things that I found about a year ago was exogenous ketones. So I'm going to give away a 5-day trial pack of exogenous ketones, which basically they're ketones in a cup, just like Vicki, tilts back and drinks a glass of water, or I would. You can drink these ketones like you're drinking them out of a cup. The Navy SEALs have been using them for years, and they've been commercialized about a year ago. And so I'm going to give away a trial pack of some exogenous ketones that you can use yourself. The cool thing about exogenous ketones is when you drink them, you can actually get into ketosis in about 30 minutes. So it actually is a bridge to getting past that hump that a lot of us experience in trying to move from using glucose as your primary fuel to ketones as your primary fuel. It's really a pretty cool bridge. We're taking you off of it's a trial pack that would let you go from using unleaded to diesel. It's really cool.
And if that didn't make sense to you, let's just start with the word exogenous, okay? Because that's kind of an erotic word already. So we're just going to go with it's kind of sexy, and we're just going to go with it, okay? So we may not be able to say, but it's okay. So ketones is what puts you in ketosis. So my next question is, because, I have gotten questions from people this week asking me, and one of those what the heck is ketosis and why in the world would I want to be there? So tell us in English, Doc, what ketosis actually is and why it matters to us.
Yes, Vicki, I will speak into English. So if your body takes sugar, it breaks sugar into two molecules. Mm-hmm. It breaks it into glucose and fructose, and your body can use either of those in the cell as fuel. It's like unleaded for the gas tank, essentially.
Okay.
When your body burns fat, the fat molecule is burned. It can actually burn fat twice. It gets twice the energy out of fat. So the first time it takes the fat, which is in the medical term is triglyceride, and it breaks it down and produces some energy, and it turns it into a ketone. The ketone can be used a second time as fuel. And also in the process of that ketone functioning, it acts like a neural signaling hormone. So it actually stimulates DNA and RNA, stimulates your brain.
Okay, wait, DNA, RNA, if you get any more initials, you're going to make it dizzy.
It stimulates your genetics, and it stimulates your brain, and can be pretty powerful in that regard. So when you're in ketosis, that means that your body is primarily using ketone or fat as its primary fuel. When you're a sugar burner, or you're using glucose as your primary fuel, like most of us have for years and years, you're basically using glucose that way, or it's a process of regular sugar burning. So in ketosis, when your body can make ketones, and we call that term endogenous, inside of you, or endogenous. When you take a ketone from outside of your body, you didn't make it yourself, and you drink it, that's an exogenous form. So we're talking about being able to give you a pre-converted form of a ketone as a fuel source through a drink or through something you eat. And that's really what it means.
To me, it sounds like rocket fuel, because I am a high energy person, right? And so that is something that really important. If I can get some rocket fuel, because we know what happens. Sometimes we get the doldrums, right? Those of you guys who are type A, those of you guys who are doers and, movers and shakers, put a 1 in the chat box. And those of you who are listening on the podcast, you guys just nod, while you're driving down the road, just nod. And you'll see other people next to you that are nodding right along, right? That they know they're high energy people. And we know that a candy bar, for me, I'm actually hypoglycemic. So a candy bar might take me up a couple notches for about, I say 5 minutes. It might be a little longer. And then it drops me down into a pit, right, of tiredness and not feeling so good. And so when you talk about rocket fuel and burning fat, because let's face it, if there's anything we want to burn out of our body, especially you ladies out there know what I'm talking about, it is the fat. So that sounds like a super double whammy for me, like in a good way. Like I like this rocket fuel that's going to give me more energy. And I know we've already talked about the fact that it can help balance out blood sugar. It can also handle several other, or actually numerous other issues in the body. And when you slap on we're going to hashtag it rocket fuel. When you tack on the rocket fuel thing, then that just makes the whole thing like supercharged, right? And I mean, am I talking totally crazy or just partially crazy?
No, you're not. And that's why for 10 years as a physician, one of the things that I've been doing with my patients is helping them achieve a state of ketosis in their through their diet. And as they do that, they actually feel more energetic. They feel more clear-headed. They feel that they're able to lose fat really effectively. They're able to reverse their blood sugar problems. I've got patients in my practice that have reversed their diabetes because of being in ketosis. So the state of being in nutritional ketosis, where you're using the ketones as your primary fuel, it really is like rocket fuel for the body. It's quite a powerful tool. And whether you do that by making it yourself or using an additional source, ingesting it, eating it, it's really quite cool. It's really kind of revolutionized the ketogenic dietary world, at least in my perspective and with my practice. So it's quite an amazing advent to the Ketonian landscape.
Ooh, that's like a $5 phrase, to the Ketonian landscape. Let's definitely use that. So April, make sure that you pull that out, because that's a good one. I like that. You too, Nikki. You guys pull that stuff out. That is some really good stuff. And so, Adam, like I said, people are asking questions. We got some great questions in the chat box. Shelly Anderson, I told you, was here. Crystal said, hi, Dr. Nally. Darlene Chidley's here. Krista Wesley. Krista, how are you? She's here. And Jacques says that it should come with a year's supply of bacon. bacon, right? But
it probably ought to come with a year's supply of bacon. Yes, we should. I don't know how we could send that. We'd have to ship it in some strange way. A large semi truck show up on your doorstep. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. Darlene wants to know, should our doctors be informed before they take any product that puts them in ketosis?
Well, if you've never used a ketogenic diet before, and you have any medical problem, you probably ought to talk to your doctor about how that might affect medicines you're taking, or how that might affect certain medical conditions. If you're on diabetic medicines or blood sugar medicines, then you probably ought to talk to your doctor about that. In fact, I would highly recommend it, just to touch base with them. But if you think about it, taking in a ketone is no different than taking in fat. And so if you're eating bacon or you're eating ketones, you're essentially taking in fat. One form has been broken down already, versus it's kind of like eating the sugar or eating the fructose out of a fruit, or the glucose out of one of those squeeze things that you see the athletes drink or eat while they're cycling 100 miles. So it really isn't any different. It's a fuel source. It's just a form of fuel. But if you're attempting to achieve a state of nutritional ketosis and you've got some medical conditions, you may want to touch base. You probably do want to touch base with your doctor just to be safe and make sure that you don't need to adjust medicines, because we often have to do that. Amazingly, in a good way, we're often adjusting down or removing medicines because of what a ketogenic state can do for you physically. And that's the really cool thing that I'm so excited about and have been for 10 years.
Well, and that's one of the things that and by the way, Tim McVeigh in the house. Welcome, Tim. We so appreciate you being here. Is that there's so many things that it does. Like, I'm hypoglycemic, and I had some really, a year ago or so, I had some really difficulty getting my blood sugar to stabilize. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I mean, I was still eating the same way. I'm still, I was still doing my same stuff, exercising every day. But for some reason, I was having trouble where my blood sugar would just bomb out. And so since I've been doing a ketogenic diet, I have had my blood sugar stable. I haven't even had to check my blood sugar. Now, I know my doctor might say that, Vicki, you should still check it, but we know when it's dropping. We know when things don't feel right. I've been hypoglycemic since I was 18. We don't need to do the math, but I've been diagnosed when I was 18. So it's been a couple of years. So, Adam, as we look at these things, again, people feel discouraged a lot of times. Their weight issues feel discouraging when they feel like they don't have any energy, like they can't figure out what's going on, and the more I read, the more I hear from you, the more I listen to your podcasts and kind of dive into those things. It's really exciting to find out that weight loss doesn't have to be a starvation method, right? It doesn't, and we get to eat bacon. Like, I love bacon. And for those of you guys that are not carnivores, I totally get you. Okay. I feel you, but I still love my bacon. Not as much as Adam, but I do love my bacon. And that is one of the things, as a model, I never ate bacon. Like, I would look at it, I would smell it, I would watch it, but I wouldn't eat it, right? I wouldn't eat avocados. I wouldn't eat things that now I'm super excited about that I can, eat and have as part of my regular diet, because I learned that those fats are what helped me to keep my blood sugar stable, and that getting rid of them was causing me the difficulty.
Oh yeah. It's amazing. Since you've been doing ketosis and you've actually helped improve your hypoglycemia in the last 3 years. You said you were 18 when it started, and so 3 years ago, right?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. It's amazing how many people come into me just really literally weeks afterwards and say, I haven't had a hypoglycemic event in weeks. Since it's actually really amazing. It's amazing. It's changed the way I practice medicine. To be honest, medicine is actually fun to practice again, other than all the paperwork and stuff you got to do. Medicine actually is fun again because you can actually help people feel better just by eating food they like. It's amazing to me. The husband and the wife will come in, and the husband will sit there at the table, or on my table, and wife sitting in the chair, and I'll say, you've gained a little weight and your blood sugar's up a little bit and your cholesterol's up a little bit. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to have bacon, sausage, eggs, and cheese, and cook them in butter. And he goes, oh, and his wife's going, no. But there is no compliance issue ever when I tell people that. Now, for those, interesting enough, a lot of my female patients do struggle a little bit with wrapping their head. It took my wife a year and a half to wrap her head around the fact that she can actually put butter on her steak, or she can use heavy cream as a food. Heavy cream and berries, a little bit of berries. That's like that's like nature's candy. So it's actually really neat. You as you shift to a more natural state of food, you're always full. and you feel fantastic. So it's actually really, really cool. I love it. I do it myself because medically, if I didn't, I would be probably 350 pounds today and a really sick puppy. So that's why I do it. So it's enabled me personally to keep myself 65 pounds lighter than I was 10 years ago. And it's enabled thousands of my patients to reverse and improve their diabetes, their blood pressure, their cholesterol issues. And so it's really been an amazing thing to see this type of nutritional ketogenic state and what it can do for people. It's kind of it's my life's mission to expand the Ketonian landscape.
I like it. I'm telling you, we're using that. Expand the Ketonian landscape. Crystal Price is here, and she said she's been on exogenous. See, I can't even say it. Like, there you go. I gotta put that in my mental dictionary. On the ketones for 7 weeks, and it's been life-changing for her. So that's the kind of stuff we want to hear, right? I mean, we want to hear that people have had some kind of experience that's saying, hey, this is good for me. And, we didn't really talk about what your credentials are, Adam. I'd love for you to tell them so people know that you're not just, and I won't say just because any kind of doctorate obviously is important, but that what your credentials are. You're a DO. Tell us, you're a family practice doctor. Tell us a little bit about your background so people know that you are legit.
So I've been in private practice for 15 years. I am a board certified family physician. So I went through medical school and then went through a residency program and I'm board certified in full spectrum family practice, which means I treat people from the cradle to the grave, which is actually fun because I get to treat families and I get to watch people as they move through the family. And the cool thing about being a family doc is that you become a part of the family. Right. People bring you into their family in a way that I don't think really any other career does that. So it's actually exciting. That's the fun part of practicing medicine for me. What I found about 5 years into that was that I myself and hundreds of my patients, thousands of my patients were really, really struggling with weight gain. My father weighed almost 400 pounds. He died at 58. All the complications of diabetes. He was in renal failure and just a whole slew of issues. And my labs and his labs looked almost identical at around the early 30s. If you look at his and mine, they look identical. I was 65 pounds heavier than I was, and it just wasn't working. And people would come into me and say, Dr. Nally, I've cut my calories to 1,000 and I'm exercising 6 days a week. And I was doing the same thing. And if they felt like they were eating cardboard and they just weren't having success. So I started looking for how do we solve this problem and ended up going back and getting board certified as an obesity medicine specialist. So I do specialize in obesity medicine. The term that originally came out is bariatric, but that's often related to surgery. I'm not a surgeon in that capacity. I treat obesity with medicines and lifestyle intervention. So I'm dual boarded, family practice and obesity. And then I'm also a health policy fellow. I realized that if we're going to change the Ketonian landscape, we have to realize that our food is heavily tied to law and policy and regulation. So I went on to do training in health policy and what that means to create health policy and how legislating your soda pop may or may not help your waistline. So those are kind of things that I looked at. And so those are the three areas that I've found interest in. That's my credentialing. And so I've been in private practice with those three focuses over the last 15 years.
Okay. Well, and so that gives a lot of credibility in identifying who you are and what you're about and why people should listen to you. Because I always believe that we need to identify if somebody really knows what they're talking about. Because there's a lot of people that kind of yak about X, Y, or Z, and we're not sure. And people can sway with the wind, right? They start to go this way, and then they hear that, and they go this way. And so one of the things I really like, and I know that this is not official, like knowledge where everybody knows this yet, but I hear a birdie told me that you're launching a new website and that you have a new, there's some new stuff coming where you're actually going to have a full package of helping people to go through weight loss, including telemedicine visits, where they can actually, that's included in that package where they can actually meet with you and go over this in a private setting, but yet they don't have to leave their homes. And so is that it? Did I hear that correct? Did my birdie speak correctly?
Your birdie did speak correctly. It was probably speaking loud and clear. Yes. One of the things that I've found is that, I see patients one-on-one and it limits me to about 30 to 30 5 people a day that I can actually individually help. I've had lots of people from literally all over the world say, how can I get at least parts of this or get started, or what can I do? So I have got a team of people, amazing team of them, helping me to put together a revitalized website and some packages that will allow people to kind of jumpstart this process. And then if they're interested, and the regulations will allow it, because there's still some issues we're working through on that part of it, but be able to interact through telemedicine to at least consult about diet at a baseline, and talk about how we can get this started, and then kind of give them tools that either I can help them with, or I can give them tools to take to their doctor to work with to move forward in that regard. So we've been so successful over the last 10 years in helping people literally change their lives with weight and disease. I'm a firm believer that a ketogenic diet treats the diseases of civilization, and that's one of the things that I use as a mantra, I guess, that that hopefully will help people. And so these packages will be designed for you to jumpstart your program and dive right in. So.
Okay. Well, and I think that's where something really important, especially as we're starting to go into the holidays, that there are a lot of things going on at people that really want, we all gain a little weight at the holidays. Like we just do, right? As like because people are bringing us baked goods and bringing stuff, and we have yummy meals, and there's all these gifts, and there's people, doing chocolates and caramel, and how much I love those things. It's really hard. But, the people here, like Crystal saying she has lupus and RA, and she's lost 22 pounds and lost her Ambien. She lost her Ambien habit. That's fantastic. There's so many different things that we have here. And then Crystal also was talking about, well, again, I think I read that one, the exogenous ketones comment, and I'm working on my word exogenous, right? So I'm getting a little better at that. We are really quick, because there's so much more that we have to talk to Doc Nally about, but we want to make sure that you guys know about one of our sponsors, which is Archon mounts. If you guys have done any live streaming, like right now, I'm actually using my TW broadcaster to hold my iPad so I can read some of the comments. And you guys, if you go to archon.com and put in the code FitchSlap, you guys get a 20% off discount on anything you're purchasing. There's some great new mounts. You've probably seen my previous shows where you can do cooking and different things like that. You can do mounts that are right in front of you. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. So I encourage you to go there. They also have chargers and cords and the sonic shutter where you can take pictures and start and stop your video. So again, go to archon.com and use the code FitchSlap for a 20% discount. So I appreciate, you coming here. And Shelly says she loves her fat bombs. Isn't that one of the recipes or something that you have? Or is that just, like something she's saying? Isn't it a recipe, Doc?
Oh, yes. Fat bombs are, I think fat bombs are the ambrosia of the ketonian world. There are probably like 30 or 40 recipes. If you Google search right now, fat bombs, you're going to see hundreds of different recipes. Fat bombs are essentially a very low carbohydrate snack. It's a no-bake cookie that is made of either cocoa or strawberry flavor with either coconut oil, butter, and coconut, things like that. There's a whole different slew of flavors that you can make. My wife always has fat bombs in the fridge. So if I come home and I'm hungry, I'll just pop a fat bomb or two, and it melts in your mouth and it tastes fantastic. So I love my fat bombs too, Shelly. Yes, they're very good.
I have to say, if there was some in my fridge right now, I would be running over to the fridge, but I have not got to experience those yet, but I will definitely have to do that. So, we talked a little bit about what basically inspired you to become an obesity specialist. It looks like it was from family heritage and making sure that you didn't follow in those same footsteps that your dad did. But, did you find that there was something like, what is it that started you on the journey of being a doctor? Was it I always wanted to be a doctor, other family members were a doctor, or was it only because of that?
Well, there's really a couple of reasons I want to be a doctor. One, I liked helping people. Two, I loved science. Three, as I started talking, I was talking with my father one day, and he said, Adam, no matter what happens in the world, you can always set a bone for a chicken. So, there's always some use in being a doctor. If an apocalypse occurs, you always got some kind of work. So that's one of the things that was interesting. But I found one day when I was actually in high school, a lady had gotten hit by a car, and I ran out and was with a couple people and was there kind of as a first responder to this accident, and realized right then in that moment that I liked that. That was actually having the skill to know what to do in that situation actually was really empowering. And so that kind of spurred me forward to really realize, I like mixing, this science with the ability to help people. And that really is kind of what's driven it. And then there's been some pretty significant family issues that have really made it my life's mission to try to find solutions to those problems.
I love that. And I think we all have to be inspired to be what we do. We always talk about that you need to love what you do, that otherwise people that are doctors that got into it because of a family, that's what the family business is. Then at 40, all of a sudden, or 50, they're going, I don't like this. Like, I'm not happy anymore. And it doesn't mean that you can't expand on that knowledge. I find a lot of people that have built on their knowledge and have choose to, they'll extend it, whether they become a professor or a speaker, an author, and they start extending that knowledge out. But that, I love the fact that you have a heart for it. And again, you're always sharing that knowledge with people. You're always delivering value and helping people, because that's what it is. And that's why, you're this bridge that you're building, because a lot of us, and you guys put one in the chat box if you guys are with me on this, a lot of people feel a little intimidated by doctors and the way they speak. And then they just talk right over our heads, and we go, what do you want me to take? And if doctor can give you pills, he can give you what? We just listen. We listen because we don't know. And so I love the fact that you're building that bridge, Doc, for us to help us to understand what, that ketones, exogenous ketones, are rocket fuel, right? I'm working on it. They're our rocket fuel. I can say that. I can understand that. Now, and as we start building and understanding, there's so many terms that are a little tricky. So, I really appreciate that you're the bridge. And I kind of think you fit in line with me because, they call me the hope dealer. I think you are a bridge of hope, that I think people want hope, that they aren't stuck with their current health situation, no matter what that is, that it happens to be, like I said, hypoglycemia, diabetes, major inflammation, problems that eating right and adjusting what's going on can really help. So what do you have to say for those people that are feeling discouraged and feel like they can't do it?
There's always hope. That's the neat thing. If you look at the Latin definition of doctor, it actually it translates to teacher. And so if your doctor is not a good teacher, at least my perception is you need to find a doctor that can teach you. If I go to someone for services, I go to them because I need them to help me teach or learn a skill that I don't have, or learn a piece of life that I don't have. I see it as, the challenge from a physician's perspective is the biggest discouragement in many cases is death, and so we're always trying to skirt death. The challenge is that it's going to happen to every single one of us, and when you recognize that, you say, okay, well, I can't skirt it always, but in the interim, we can make this life at least as pleasant and enjoyable to live as possible. And there are some principles that you can live with and by through your life that actually do help that. And so if I can help approach that or help people accomplish that in some capacity, whether it be physically or mentally or however, then that actually is very helpful for those people. And at least that's what I would hope someone would do for me and my family. And so I try to do the same for them, kind of the golden rule.
Well, no, it makes perfect sense. And I think if you asked me what I would look for in a doctor, it's someone that can explain things to me. Doctors that talk over my head or talk down to me, I just say next, because I don't need that. I don't need somebody to make me feel incompetent about my own health. I need someone that will explain it to me in layman's terms, if that's what I need, because that's not my area of expertise. I mean, most people have some area of expertise that they could talk over somebody else's head too, with, terms or facts and stuff like that. And the fact that you are really down to earth and that you really care about people has made an impact on your community, the Ketonians. I mean, I have never seen someone that just pops on a Facebook Live and somehow ends up with 20,000 views for a 5-minute video. It's shocking to me, not because you're not amazing, but it's because of who you are. It's because you deliver a value. You deliver information in a way, in a consumable format that people can process and say, I understood that and I don't feel like a moron. Because none of us are really saying, hey, I'd love to find somebody who can make me feel inept. It's just not one of those things we do, right?
So I've been a few people that do that, but most of us don't know.
I wanted to talk to you, make me feel weird. Can you do that?
See, that's the silly voices I was telling you. I told you this guy, he is the bridge, right? Because he's okay with being who he is. He's okay with having fun. He's okay with, just being him. And we had some other questions that popped up. First of all, Jacques said, thank you for everything you do. We love you here in Canada. And Tina, she's wondering, how do you avoid feeling sick to your stomach when transitioning to ketosis? And I would love, Tina, for you to answer and let me know, are you talking about when you're actually taking the exogenous ketones, or are you talking about just a dietary change? And then Adam, why don't you answer that?
She's probably actually talking about both, because I see it with both. And the reason I see it with both is, when you live the life of a well, let me put it this way. When you live your life eating garbage, what happens is your body downregulates the receptors in the GI system or the gut that allow you to absorb fat efficiently. When you put more fat into the gut, whether that be triglyceride or any form of fat, whether that be saturated, unsaturated fat, monosaturated fat, all the fun fats that you could talk about.
Because we all call them fun fats.
Yes, they're all fun fats. Yes. Fat is my life, and I love it. But when you put lots of fat in your gut and your gut's not used to it, it actually takes about 4 to 6 weeks for your GI system to upregulate receptors or doorways for that fat to enter. And the problem is that there's about 2 billion bacteria in your gut that if you don't pull it in, they go, woohoo, throw a party. And they produce a little extra gas and sulfur and all sorts of cool smells and sounds that make it hard for you to be in a room with other people for a while. And so that's the challenge that arises. And there's a transition period. And so I would just say to Tina, be patient. You can experience, if you do 3 tablespoons of coconut oil in your coffee or in your drink or whatever it is you do, you'll experience this for about 12 hours and it'll be really exciting and you'll curse my name. So what I tell people is back that off to maybe 1 tablespoon, do that for a week or 2, then increase it a little further. So if over a period of about 4 weeks, you'll transition. Using the exogenous ketones for some people has actually been a little bit of a bridge for that. And so that's been one way to bridge it a little bit faster that I've seen in a few people. Not everybody has that. Some people, it still is a little bit of a delay, but it may take up to 4 weeks. So we call it a keto adaptation phase where your body's getting used to using the ketones, number 1, and also getting used to absorbing the ketones, number 2. So it's
keto adaptation phase.
Keto adaptation phase. Say that fast 10 times. That's definitely
going to be in the dictionary, right?
There
on
you go.
Website.
Yes. Yes.
Dr. Nally, I don't know what this keto adaptation phase is. Would you tell me about that?
Yeah.
Right. It's serious. And, Kathy has a really good question, and so does Sandy. Sandy wants to know if insurance covers this. And I think I know the answer to that, but I want to let you. And then Kathy wants to know about how the diet meshes with a person like herself on Coumadin. She has a history of blood clots in her portal vein, which she understands is not very common. So can you kind of share that with us?
Well, the easy answer is Kathy's first is to go to Coumadin. I have patients that are on ketogenic diets that use Coumadin, but I have my own Coumadin clinic. So we monitor Coumadin regularly. And when we shift your diet with any time you're using a blood thinner, you have to be watched closely because that Coumadin level will shift and fluctuate. And so what I do in my clinic is we balance your Coumadin dose around your diet. That takes a week or 2 to do, but it's possible. You just have to work closely with your doctor. Otherwise, you can throw that blood thinner off, and that can at times be life-threatening. So work very closely with your doctor if you are using a blood thinner. That's important to understand, but it can be done, and I do it every day, as long as you've got someone that can work with you. The second question that you had was, is it covered by insurance? The diet can be done by anybody. That's the insurance doesn't cover meals as far as I understand. And as a family practitioner, I'm usually treating disease, and so I'm addressing disease along with diet. And so that part of it, if you see me in my clinic, is often covered by insurance. Now, exogenous ketones and some of the medicines that we use for weight loss, depending on your insurance plan and what your employer covers, may or may not be covered there. I can tell you the exogenous ketones are not, but some of the medicines may or may not be. So it really depends on what your plan is. For the most part, it's not. Unfortunately, at this point in time, that's not. We still, unfortunately, in this country, we still see obesity as as laziness or as a lack of drive. I see thousands of patients who are obese, and they are not lazy at all. They're probably some of the hardest working people I've ever seen. I see obesity and the diseases of civilization related to obesity as a hormonal problem, and when we fix the hormone, the obesity improves. And so we're using diet to modulate a big part of those hormones. So from the perspective of how I treat it, it's partially treated by insurance. That's the short answer.
Okay. So this particular portion, just doing the exogenous ketones and that kind of stuff, is probably not covered.
It's not covered by insurance. Yeah, that's not covered by insurance.
One of the things I want you guys to think of is that your health, insurance companies cover the pieces of things, but if somebody told you they could improve your health, like I can tell you, if somebody would have told me, 10 years ago that you won't have these hypoglycemic attacks where, I almost got hit by a car once because my blood sugar dropped so low and it was my own fault. But when you first get diagnosed, you don't realize how fast your blood sugar can drop. And so I literally almost got hit by a car because the people I was with, they don't understand when I'm saying I really have to eat. No, I really have to eat. They don't get it because they're thinking, okay, you're hungry. And so it's no longer just hunger. It is, I'm starting to lose it. And I remember being in Las Vegas, and Adam, you can attest to, what happens to the body when the blood sugar drops so low. I'm literally, and if you guys haven't been to Vegas in a long time, it was a long time ago, and Caesar's Palace is on one side of the street. We're literally by the doors of Caesar's, and this is how whacked out the brain gets, right? All the way across the street, far away, because Caesar's is a really big place. I see a sign that says food or something, right? And instead of turning and going inside the building I'm right next to, I'm staggering I'm telling these people I need to eat, and they don't get it. And I'm now at the curb, and I don't even know how long it took me to get there, but it's not a short distance, right? And I remember stepping off the curb because the light I was allowed to go, but it had been blinking. And then I remember seeing, telling my brain, it's too late. I can't go, right? But I can't move backwards. And the cars are going by normally you have reflexes that would jump back. And I'm watching the cars go by thinking to myself, I need to move. It's like your body's in this complete slow motion haze where you cannot make decisions. When it finally turned, and my friends still haven't even noticed I'm gone, I walked into a restaurant, and this is so funny. Literally, I walked into the restaurant and I went to somebody's table. I did not take their food, but there was honey in the middle of the table. And I grabbed packets of honey and I started shoving it. I was literally going to pass out. I was losing it. And so I can tell you, when you go into a state like that, and I'm kind of an in control kind of girl. So I got to tell you, that did not thrill me at all. And so if somebody told me I could change my life and that I would never feel like that again, I would never start feeling nauseous or crazy or start to get anxious because I realized I needed to eat, I would do something about it. I would have done something about it a long time ago, but maybe we didn't know about it then, or some doctors didn't. I know one of your peeps here from Canada, Mary DeLuca, says, I wish you could come up here and influence the Canadian doctors so they would listen to you. And that's something that's really important. And so, as I share that story, I would love for you to, kind of, I guess, validate that hypoglycemia is a very serious thing, just like diabetes, and that getting conditions like that under control can be a life changer. It's not just about weight loss.
Well, I look at diabetes as really the fourth of 5 stages of what's called insulin resistance. And diabetes really is that fourth stage. Hypoglycemia is the first and second stage of that. And what people don't realize is that this process starts 25 years before you're ever a diabetic. So those people that have hypoglycemia are literally at significant risk for becoming type 2 diabetics down the road 20 years later. And the problem is that if you've used up your sugar stores in the body, let's say you don't have much sugar store or glycogen in the body, and you've used it up because you exercised really hard or something happened, or you fasted or something major happened, and then you blow through those glycogen stores in your liver and your muscle, and then the body all of a sudden kicks out extra insulin, which is what happens. And then your body tanks. That extra insulin for some people prevents you from accessing the fat But because you have no sugar stores, your blood sugar literally bottoms out. When the blood sugar bottoms out, the body says, we can do one of two things. I'll create a fight or flight response. So it actually dumps epinephrine and norepinephrine and cortisol and all of these adrenaline hormones into the body. So when you've had that car cut you off and you just about had that accident, you got this close to that accident and your heart started racing, you sweat and you feel like somebody just put an elephant on your chest. That's what hypoglycemics feel when it kicks in, but it lasts for like 5 or 10 minutes. And they go, oh my gosh, it's like the sky is falling and the chicken little impending doom starts to kick in. And it's real. It's actually real. Yeah. Now, not everybody experiences it to that degree, but some people do, and you're one of them, Vicki. And it's literally it's life. It can be life threatening because if you're crossing that street and you pass out, you could get hit by a car. I mean, there's a number. You could be driving on the freeway and that happens in something major. So for a person that experiences that, number one, they need to recognize it is real. Number two, it's related to the way we've been taught to eat for the last 65 years. It's also got some genetics associated with it. And when we slightly modify the meals and we modify the hormones, that goes away. And so it's profound. But it's a big warning flag that says if you don't do something about it now, in 15, 20 years, you're going to be, looking at some, a handful of pills like my father did, and major problems. So that's one of the big challenges that's there because it is real. And it's one of those stages that moves along down a spectrum that I refer to as an insulin resistance stage.
Well, and that's a really good way. And I'm going to help you come up with some connecting ways of describing some of the things, because I think sometimes when people hear like some technical terms and they start to shut down, kind of like a hypoglycemic, they're I don't know. I lost that one. I'm just I'm gonna move on.
Got it in my head.
Yeah, right. But I think that when we do connect those, which is what you've been doing a great job, because you've certainly shared a lot of information with me and given me some structure on understanding. And I know if some people have some questions that have been sent in that I'm going to ask you in just a second. But we have a quick little graphic that I wanted to put up because we do talk about you and your bacon obsession, and that
bacon obsession, really?
Yeah, and then there it is. It's all about the bacon. That happens to be bacon in the shape of a heart, but that is absolutely, it's funny. I see the sign behind you. I don't know if everybody else can see it, but there's, he's all about bacon, and the fact that when bacon comes up, I think of you. So now, like every time when my husband makes bacon in the morning now, that's like, I think of you. And so that's what we want to do, right? Is we want to become a brand that we can deliver some value and remind people it's okay to eat bacon. It's okay to do these different things. Somebody was asking about if they have leaky gut, if a ketogenic diet is appropriate for somebody with a leaky gut. So I want to know what your opinion is, because they got some information that said it wasn't, and we want to just kind of find out what your opinion is.
Well, leaky gut is one of a spectrum of diseases that can be interrelated with other things. One of the studies that we have show that when you follow a ketogenic diet, it actually improves ulcerative colitis and inflammatory bowel type diseases, leaky gut being one of those, that by about 60 to 70%. So it is very helpful. And the patients that I've had that have actually had true leaky gut, the only thing that's helped them is a ketogenic diet. And the reason we think that happens is that the gut bacteria, especially in the lower colon where that leaking occurs, they thrive on butyrate, which is a form of a ketone. And so if you're giving your body either the precursor to ketones or ketones, you actually will help those gut bacteria, become happy gut bacteria. They actually improve. They get better. And that's what we're seeing clinically. And that's what I see clinically. And that's what we've seen, at least from the studies that are there. There's not been a true study that I've read that says, you do this and leaky gut gets better. But the implication clinically, I do see that. So I use it in my patients with that approach, and they do very well.
Okay.
Stacy.
Okay. Well, so that's some really good information too. And knowing also, as we're looking at some things, like I have this list of things, I know you have an article on your website. And by the way, I want you guys to know something, that there is some information we're going to give you later, but if somebody put this in the chat box. So if you guys want information from Adam, you guys can go to VickiFitch.com/doc. There's a little form in there that goes right into he's got his new website going up. So we put that over here on VickiFitch.com/doc. You guys, if you want information from him and to keep up to date as soon as that website is live, to know about some special packages we're going to tell you about later, if you want to know about ketosis, if you want to know about some of this stuff, fill that out for him, and then you'll get into the Ketonian Club, right? Well, not the Ketonian Club. You'll be part of the Ketonian Kings tribe. You'll just be part of his tribe. That's all. So anyway, I want you guys to remember that. Somebody put it in the chat box for me. So VickiFitch.com/doc, DOC. And so as we talk about that part, though, there's a big question about sweeteners that people are confused about. Now, I want you guys, I know that there's lots of different ones, but if you had to just pick one, what sweetener that, is the best one to help people? And then you can discuss some of those other pieces, but is there one that you say, this is the best option?
Well, I would actually say there's two, because sweeteners are used in a number of ways. If you're just sweetening something that's liquid stevia is probably the best thing to do. So a lot of my patients drink coffee, and I'm not a coffee drinker, but they do, and they'll use a drop of liquid stevia, and that works really well. The nice thing about stevia is it does not raise insulin, which is the culprit in most people's obesity issue. That's it's the major hormone of 26 hormones that really drives the obesity problem. And so if you're using that as a sweetener, that doesn't stimulate, that doesn't cause a problem. However, those of you who know how to cook, and my wife has tried to teach me to cook, but she's a fantastic cook. She has shown me that you can't use a liquid sweetener to get the crunchy, yummy taste of some of the different types of foods, like low-carb cookies and things like that. You actually have to have a crystal form to get that crunchy flavor. Didn't know that.
Okay.
And so you want to use a crystalline form. Now, the only forms of crystalline type sweeteners that are out there that don't raise insulin are going to be erythritol, which is one of many sugar alcohols, the only one that doesn't raise insulin. Or there's something called chicory root, and what we do is we put them together and it takes away the funny aftertaste. Mm-hmm. So, and I think there's a product called Swerve that does that. There's a couple others, and I can't think of their names right offhand, so I apologize. But combinations of chicory root and erythritol together can be used really well to cook or bake with. And so it depends on what you're wanting to do with it. But so if you're wanting the liquid, you can use the liquid stevia. If you want to use a crystal to bake with, then you would use a combination of erythritol and chicory root. Works nicely. Very nice. Okay.
And so if you know how to cook, and if you guys are good like with baking and stuff like that, then that might be something that you guys are really familiar with. I've heard of chicory root, but I think it's mostly in my tea. Like, it's one of the ingredients in one of my gourmet teas or something. So I really didn't know its purpose other than to do something in the tea. So, that's really good.
For those out there that really want to know the name, it's called oligofructosaccharide. Say that fast 10 times.
That's everybody was thinking to themselves, I can't wait for him to throw one of those techie terms at me to make me feel like an idiot. That's good though. I like it, Doc. I like it. And Jacques, thank you so much for putting that link up, you guys.
Thanks, Jack.
And, I don't know. I don't think stevia has a yucky aftertaste. It doesn't to me, but, I'm not sure about that.
Some people have a sensitive palate and they'll actually there's an aftertaste that will vary for some people. And what we found in my house is that when you mix the sweeteners, the aftertaste is gone. And so that's why you'll see a lot of companies mix the sweeteners together because it kind of counteracts that funny aftertaste. That's a little low carb secret.
Okay, there you go.
For the Ketonian court.
There we go. That's where we go. The Ketonian cord. I love it. And Stacy's asking about honey, but I'm sure I know the answer to that because that'll spike. I know that'll spike. That's how I survived the biggest incident. So I know what that does to blood sugar.
Honey is honey. It's a sugar. A lot of people say, well, Dr. Nally, but I don't eat white bread. But what about brown bread? Or what about honey? Because it's natural. Well, sugar is natural too. It comes from a cane or a beet. So, it just depends on when your insulin spikes at the first hour or the third hour. Right. That's the problem is it really comes down to that hormonal spike. And so, honey is natural, but honey also expands your waistline. So
yes, just a little, right? Just a little. It's so funny. Let's see. I've seen it mixed with brown sugar and it tastes better. Well, I think there, like I said, there is combinations because stevia is actually a really bitter plant, right? That they pull the sweetness out, but it's actually a bitter, if I remember correctly, it's actually something bitter, but they pull one of the components out. They separate that and to get the sweetness. And it's so sweet that you only have to use a little bit.
Actually, we grew stevia in my little aquaponics pond out in my backyard. We had true plants of stevia. And so for Thanksgiving last year.
I'm sorry, just real quick. Of course you did. Of course you did. I love that. That's hilarious. So
it's the leaf. You actually take the leaf and you dry the leaf and then you pound the leaf and you can actually use the real leaf. And it's like 300 times sweeter than sugar. And it's actually really cool. It's natural.
And you wonder how many like animals in the forest are chewing on these leaves, or in the koi pond that are chewing on these leaves. And
dude, did you taste that stevia? It's awesome.
I see a new Disney movie coming out with. I see it, and we have the voiceover here with Adam Nally, and DocMuscles will get in there and start doing some. Oh, I have a new thing I got to put on. I got a new idea I gotta deal with. But
the catnip's over there rubbing on the catnip, and right. the horses are going, there's stevia over here, dude. There's stevia.
Yeah. Isn't that great? I love that. And I love your personality where you're really helping us not feel, incompetent here, because this is, these are tough things. They're understanding your body, understanding hormonal responses and how and why the body reacts. It can be, kind of a crazy thing. So Doc, let's talk about how people lose weight, right? Right now we're talking about the holidays, right? And we're going into a time that tends to people pack on, 5-10 pounds. And that's why at January 1st, we're all making New Year's resolutions that we're going to get fit, we're going to get it together, we're going to work out, we're going to diet. But isn't there a way for us to start working through some of this stuff now where we don't have to remove everything? Being in ketosis doesn't require us to, cut out everything forever, right? I would like you to kind of give people some hope. That doesn't mean you can never have a piece of pie again. It doesn't mean you can never do any of these things. What does it really mean to live a ketogenic lifestyle?
So for the first 5 years of what I did, I actually wasn't in ketosis all the time. It was just more of a low carbohydrate lifestyle. And I lost a ton of weight that way. And many of my patients did as well. We're finding that the most efficient way to lose weight is to be in ketosis, but you don't actually have to be in ketosis all the time to lose weight. What we've found is there are literally 26 different hormones in the body that have some effect on weight, but the main hormone is that of insulin. It's not a calorie issue. It's not an exercise issue. It's really a hormone issue. I've had a couple of endocrinologists say to me, oh, Dr. Nally, you can just lose weight by pushing away from the table. And if it were a calorie issue, I've pushed away from the table many times. It didn't work. But if it's a hormone issue, which it is, and I've seen that be the case for literally all the years of my practice, me saying to someone who's obese, oh, just push away from the table is like me turning to my wife and saying, honey, this time just concentrate really hard this month and don't have a period. If it's hormonal, it's common, and then you're not getting away from that. And anything with weight is if you turn on the hormone, the weight's coming. If you turn off the hormone, the weight will come off. And that's the amazing thing that I've learned. And insulin is the major hormone that plays the role there. Now, it's not the only one, but it's the major one. And so if we can just turn that insulin down even partially, you'll see a halt in weight gain. And in many cases, weight loss. And that's why you see people that when they restrict calories, they go, well, I'm cutting out fat. Well, if you actually think about when they restrict calories, they're also cutting out soda pop and French fries and the ding dongs, which are all sugars. So if you partially restrict sugar, you're going to see some weight reduction. And then if you restrict sugar even further, like they do with a paleo diet, you'll see even further weight reduction. But for somebody like me who's just horrendously insulin resistant, so if you give me a piece of bread, I produce enough insulin as if I ate the entire loaf. If you give me a piece of pie, it's as if I ate the whole pie. And my body will, and insulin, when it turns on, if I'm producing 10 times the insulin, I'm going to then store fat for the next 12 hours. No matter what I do, how far I run, how much I jump, or how far I push away from the table, I'm going to store fat for the next 12 hours. And so it's hormonal. And so even a partial restriction of starch helps. And so, in my household or with my family, when we go to the holidays, my wife will bring a lower carb dessert for me, and I'll have the the turkey and the ham, and I'll have a low carb cookie or a fat bomb, or I'm happy with berries and cream. That's just heavy cream, which is pure fat, and a few little berries that sweeten it up, and it's like, hey, I'm a happy man. So that's really what it is. So even partial starch and carbohydrate restriction, you'll start to see some tremendous effect. Now, for some of us like me, to really see the effect, you've got to really restrict those starches to start with. And then in other cases, 10 to 15% of the time in my office, there are some other things, thyroid and other hormones that we have to address. And so those are some things you want to talk to your doc about. But that's the starting direction.
Okay. Well, no, and I think that's really good, is to start looking at it, is that, when you get thrown out of ketosis. So here, let me, I know some of the women in the audience are thinking this, and I do have some other questions. If you guys tagged them, I do have that list of questions here, so I will try and get to them. But I know some people are thinking here, okay, doc, I'm in ketosis. I've been doing good. The holiday comes and somebody sends me, chocolates with caramel sauce and I can't resist. What happens? So I'm out of ketosis. Now it's a 12-hour cycle that I'll be storing fat, and then I can get back into ketosis. Or if I then, when I had that piece of candy, because I only had one. I mean, it's not a Pringle, so I only had one, right? And that if I drink some of those exogenous ketones, like the Keto OS or whatever, would that put me back into ketosis, or no, it's too late? You're already, tell us.
So 3 things to kind of cover. Number 1, the longer you're using a low carb ketogenic diet, the better you can handle sugars later. And it takes about 18 to 24 months to see reversal of that insulin state for most people. Not everyone gets there, but most do. So the longer you do this program, the better you can handle those episodes when you cheat on the holidays. Okay. The challenge, though, is depending on the degree to which you produce insulin, and I'm one of those really huge insulin producers, if I cheat and I eat the cake, it'll kick me out of ketosis if I'm just doing it with my diet. And it'll take up to 3 days for me to get back into ketosis. That's the big challenge that's hard for me. And I will crave sugars and sweets for literally 3 days straight. So I have to know, if I'm going to kick out, I got to be prepared for cravings for the next 3 days. So it really has to be worth it. So, my anniversary or Christmas or something, when it's just really worth it, I know I'm going to crave. The benefit of the exogenous ketones that I've found clinically is that it'll put you back in ketosis in 30 minutes. Now, if you eat 3 ding-dongs, a large cake, and an apple fritter, you probably aren't going to get back into ketosis very effectively with exogenous ketones. But if you had that one piece of caramel and 2 or 3 hours later you drink some exogenous ketones, it's going to put you back in. Now, you're going to pop out faster, but it's going to be a bridge that's going to help get there and stay there longer. And that's, I call the exogenous ketones kind of the fudge factor, because they really do help to some degree with getting you back into that nutritional ketosis state. So it's really been a boon for patients that are trying to get in and out like me, who, if I cheat, I'm going to pop out for 3 to 5 days and have trouble getting back in. Now it actually helps us. So there's some great helps that way. Then the other issue is, once you start learning, I can have a little bit of this and get away with it and be okay. But if I do this, I'm going to fall out for longer. Okay. Your question.
Well, yeah, I think it answered it. But, we have a mutual friend whose birthday is today, although he hasn't been able to come in yet. If he does, we will address that later. But, he is a chocolatier, right? And so he's got to test his product. Literally, like, I make excuses. Crystal said, if I'm taking the exogenous ketones, I won't crave those chocolates. I got to tell you, when I look at them, it may not be a visceral, like, in my mouth, but I kind of feel obsessed. Like, they're calling me. They really need me. There may not be the physical craving, but I feel compelled to invite them into my mouth.
there are some of us, like you and me, Vicki, that, when the chocolate goes by, or when Chocolate Johnny comes onto the screen, you crave chocolate. When the television turns on, I still to this day crave a bowl of popcorn and a large Pepsi. And that Pavlov dog's craving kicks in. And so I have to find substitutes. So I need to introduce you to Lily's chocolates and to some of these other chocolates. Yeah, we'll be talking. And I've been trying to get Johnny to make us some low carb chocolate so we can send it around the world and expand our Ketonian reach, is what I'm hoping to do. So
I think we would definitely work on him. But looking at that piece where he does have to test his product. I mean, you can't be a chocolatier, like trying new recipes without trying it. I mean, it just can't happen. So what would somebody like him do to stay in ketosis? What, like, to help his body process those, differently, so he doesn't end up, with, extra pounds or different stuff that's challenging. That could be challenging.
Well, if his majority of his diet was a low carb diet, and then he's just testing these chocolates, he could probably, if he's not horribly insulin resistant, get away with it. And then if I could convince him to somehow get exogenous ketones into the chocolate, we could probably even make it better. But
you should totally try that, right?
Yeah, I actually was thinking about the other day, thinking, how could we get him to make something like Chocolate Johnny's chocolates with, ketones? There's got to be a way to do that. Somebody's already thinking about that right now, and
right.
I want some rights to that. Whoever.
Right. Well, we got to talk to Johnny. If we get him on here, because today is his birthday. So we as a matter of fact, if you guys are friends with him, tag him in the post. It's at John Kapos, Kapos, and also at Chocolate Johnny. So tag him to remind him that we're here and see if we can get him in here. And yeah, the low carb buttery popcorn. Yeah, Gina, like, I am a popcorn fanatic. I love my popcorn. As a matter of fact, I was really angry with Adam.
Oh, she was ticked.
Ticked. I was like, I sent him a message and I was like, can I just have, if I have lots of butter on it, can I have popcorn? And he's like, no. I was so upset. I was like, no, don't tell me that, because honestly, that's my thing, right? I like to sit with my son and I like to have popcorn. And, I used to eat low calorie popcorn, which even when it didn't taste good, because I liked that thing. And then when, I'm like, okay, I can have butter. Then I was like, well, buttered popcorn, that's a good thing, right? Buttered popcorn. But so tell us why, again, because like my ears were kind of plugged when you said that, but why can't we have our popcorn, Adam?
Well, corn is a starch. It's a pure starch. That's the problem. And it's broken down into glucose, and glucose. And that's the challenge. So what I found is a substitute. And so this is what I tell all my patients. I want you to find a substitute. So when I sit down to watch television, on the rare occasions that I get to do that, I pull out a bag of pork rinds and guacamole. Now, some people go, oh, pork rinds.
Yeah. That sounds disgusting.
But there's actually some really good ones out there that actually taste good. And when you dip them in sour cream and guacamole, it's actually quite good. And you get that crunch. So and for some people, that's an acquired taste. There are a few other things that are substitutes that can work for that. But, it's unfortunately, popcorn is a corn, and it's going to raise your blood sugar. So that's the challenge. By raising insulin.
Okay, is there an amount of popcorn I can have and still be okay? Like
1 cup is 20 grams of carbohydrate. Now, if you can limit yourself to 1 cup, I'm impressed, because that'll fit in my hand. And I have, it's like peanuts. You stick a handful of peanuts, and you can't just do one. It just almost impossible.
Okay, but so you're giving me a little hope. So you're telling me if I can put it in between my hands.
In your hand, 1 cup of popcorn. And if you're going to do that, I would say to you, load it with real butter, because butter will actually slow the glucose absorption at that level. Now, if you eat the whole thing of popcorn, it's not going to do a dang thing for you. Gotcha. And you're just going to gain weight. But that's the challenge. So, but the more butter you put on it,
this is my new symbol. I'm going to walk out with my family and say, okay, put my popcorn right here. This is my little bowl. Well, no, truthfully, because if we know that we have an option, right? It's not yes or no. That gives us something, because I can do that. Like, I can eat one piece at a time if I'm concentrated. Like, if I train myself, right? I mean, when I'm at the movie theater, the extra large popcorn will be gone, right? And then we're filling it up again. So, but I can train myself to have a piece, bite it and like really enjoy it. So I think that part of it was what we're saying is kind of a training issue, is that when we start to retrain our body, retrain the brain, to, adjust that. And Gina says 1 cup unpopped. I don't want it unpopped, Gina. That will not serve my purpose whatsoever. No. And wait, Stacy. Wow. Stacy says Vicki's got big hands. Hands. Really big hands. So I don't think my hands are that big.
Your hands are not that big.
They're not. Stop. She's trying to call these 2-cup hands and saying I can only have a 1-cupper. That's just wrong. Stop it. She's trying to steal my joy. You're a joy stealer right now, Stacy. Knock it off. So, okay. So Adam, I have tons more questions that people have asked. One of them, and then we're going to talk about the services you provide and make sure that we get this information to people. But Facebook Live add size to your hands. Thank you, Jacques. I appreciate it. That's right, Stacy. My hands are tiny. They're tiny. I can probably fill it up twice now. So. But caffeine. Okay, there's a big question with caffeine that somebody had asked, which I actually have a similar thing, but it could be a sweetener maybe. And, people ask if caffeine makes you hungry, because a lot of people say caffeine makes you hungry. But I can tell you, I have this sweet tea that is, it's a sugar-free, but it's a sweet tea. I think it's made with stevia. And it's by Lipton, and it's called Southern Sweet Tea or whatever. So it's calorie-free, whatever. But whenever I drink it, and I love it, right? Because it gives that sugar, it takes care of that sugar craving. But I always do feel hungry. I definitely feel hungry. And so is it the sweetener? Is it the sugar? Is it some kind of mental block, which, for me?
So there is some study that shows that for some sweet flavors, there may be a slight insulin response to the flavor of sweet. And okay. there is a study that does show that. So anytime you graze, you may see a little bit of that effect. Most of the teas that I've seen contain a sweetener called a sulfame, ACEFUL, a sulfame potassium, and it's on my website. If you go to the sweetener article, you can see it. It stimulates an insulin response without raising blood sugar at all, and it is the culprit in most diet or low calorie type foods that stimulates that craving. Now, 2 to 4 caffeinated drinks a day don't seem to have an effect, but when you start going past 100 grams of caffeine in a 4 to 6 hour window, the caffeine will have a diuretic effect, which makes you dehydrated, which then stimulates a hunger craving. And the excess caffeine can also stimulate a stress response, which kicks out cortisol, which actually will then kick on glucose production, which then turns on insulin as well. So if you're loading monster drinks every day, you're going to be hungry all day long, because those are 300 grams of caffeine per drink. If you did a diet soda or a tea, you're getting anywhere between 20 to maybe 90 grams of caffeine in that. And if you do, maybe one every couple hours, you're probably going to get away with that and not have a problem. What I tell most people to look for is that sweetener, the sulfame potassium, or the other sugar alcohols, xylitol, maltitol, or mannitol, that will stimulate that sweet craving hunger afterwards.
Okay. All right.
So something to look for.
We got to be careful. And so that dives into the next question, which I think was Margie's question, asking about gum, that some people say gum is good because it alleviates things, and other people say that it gets your body moving and thinking about food and start salivating and that kind of stuff. So what's the scoop on gum? We're in or we're out? So again,
it really kind of is dependent. Nobody's really proven gum does one thing or another. Now, there are some gums that contain sweeteners that if you do enough gum, if you're chewing gum 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you may get enough of a sweetener response to actually stimulate the insulin from the sweeteners that are in them. But again, when you go back to look at what Pavlov studied with his dog, and you ring the bell, just the act of mastication, which is chewing, that's the big word for those of us that really want to know that word.
There's another word for the dictionary, mastication, because it doesn't sound like it's about to. Just saying.
It kind of sounds bad, but it's not.
Right?
You actually like mastication. So that's that act of chewing itself can stimulate some of the GI reflexes and cause some hunger to kick in for some people. I can't chew gum. I get hungry. My wife, she chews it and she doesn't get hungry. So there's kind of an effect, and it really depends on what the act of chewing does for you.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
All right. So, and then Gina wants to know, and welcome, Gina. And those of you, if you guys haven't shared this out yet, please share it out. Because again, this is some good stuff. People want to know the information that's here. And those of you guys are listening to the podcast, we really do appreciate you downloading. I hope you will check out episode 23 of Vicki Fitch Live, A Fresh Perspective with Dr. Adam Nally, aka DocMuscles, because there's some great information here. And again, just watching, the passion that Adam speaks with will, I think, give you, extend that know, like, and trust factor. So you really understand that he's a man of his word and that he really cares about people. So Gina wants to know, is the coconut sweetener good? Is the coconut sweetener good?
If she's referring to the one I think she's referring to, it actually is a sugar. So you unfortunately can't use that one. So I would avoid, if it's the same one I'm thinking of, I would avoid it like the plague.
Okay.
Actually, it tastes really good, but it's.
But coconut oil is okay. Adding
coconut oil is great. Yes,
okay.
Coconut oil is great. And the unsweetened coconut milk you can even use too as an alternative to milk, which has a sugar in it. So almond milks, the coconut milks, as long as they're unsweetened, those are okay.
And someone else asked if they can drink heavy cream. Is it okay to actually drink heavy cream?
It tastes really good. I use heavy cream almost every. Well, I still have some sensitivity to a little bit of the lactose that's in the cream. So if I use a lot of it, I end up having to struggle. But most people can do very well with heavy cream. We use it in a lot. My wife uses it in a lot of the baking. There's a wonderful recipe called fluff. That is basically heavy cream and some liquid stevia, and it's fantastic. And I could just sit and eat fluff while I watch TV too. That's.
I have to check out some of these recipes. I'm salivating. I'm dripping. Anyway, we don't need to talk about my desire for sweets. But, you guys, I want to remind you too, if you haven't already, that I want you to grab this link because we are going to do a giveaway in just a little bit. I want you to grab this link and, share out this Facebook post. Remember to use the hashtag Ketonian King, Ketonian. Rob has a graphic he can pop up really quick too. Ketonian King, right? I want you to tweet it at DocMuscles, tag him in it at Vicki_Fitch, and make sure you use a Ketonian King because we are going to do a tweet draw here in about 10 minutes. So share that out. Make sure that you, again, share the broadcast out, get other people in here. And we really do appreciate you guys, just participating here. We appreciate you coming in, listening to the broadcast, asking some really great questions, and letting other people know that they don't have to be stuck where they are. Their energy level doesn't have to stay the same. Their weight doesn't have to stay the same. Their hypoglycemia or, diabetes, these things can be adjusted. And we know we can bring hope to people who are struggling because health issues, many of you know that I was in a wheelchair for 3.5 years, and that was a really difficult time in my life. I still have inflammation issues. I was in a car accident, last year that also has caused some problems. So, I've noticed some changes, and I'm looking forward to adding in some stuff that DocMuscles is going to talk about, using some of the different supplements and stuff, because as a doctor, he recommends a full package. It's not just the exogenous ketones. It's not just a piece. There's a package. So, Adam, I want you to talk about those other elements that, that it's not just about popping in, using these ketones, but there's a method to the madness that we really need to treat the whole body and make sure the body's getting the right vitamins and minerals and that kind of stuff. So could you share that with us about a little bit?
Oh yeah, thank you, and thank you for doing that. That's great. And just one comment: isn't Vicki amazing? She's just awesome. I am really impressed. I've been watching Vicki for probably over a year now, and she is probably one of the best podcasters I've ever seen. She's just one of those people that really brings lots of really amazing stuff. So thank you, Vicki, for this. This is awesome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
If you're not following Vicki, you need to follow Vicki. All those peeps that are following me, follow Vicki because she's amazing. Over the last really 15 years, what I've found is that it's not just the insulin alone. You really have to balance vitamins. If you're deficient in folic acid and vitamin D and vitamin B and vitamin B12 and 6 and a whole slew of them, I would have people literally come in with a shoebox full of vitamins and say, okay, Dr. Nally, I got all these vitamins. This is what and they would spend hundreds of dollars a month on vitamins alone. And so I finally came to the point where I realized, I just need to go to a company and have them make the vitamin that I want. And so I actually did, and it's called Keto Enhance. And that's the vitamin that I recommend in my office. I went to a pharmaceutical company and said, would you please make me a vitamin? And this is what I want it to do. This is what I want in it. And they did. And so it's a single component that you can use that actually replaces any other multivitamin you need. And it's designed specifically for the person who has a weight issue and has a blood sugar issue in mind. And that's what it's there for. The second, after a few years later, we started realizing that there are these people with borderline blood sugar issues that the chromiums alone didn't totally solve. That's in the vitamins, but and some of these other components didn't totally solve that. And there's some research out with a product called berberine, which actually acts weakly in a similar mechanism that metformin does for our diabetics, but it helps to stabilize blood sugar in a very side effect free way. Which I've been very impressed with. And so that's the second component that we add to the package for those that have any questionable blood sugar issues. And then the third is finding a good source of these omega-3 fatty acids. And so we have a product called Keto Omega 1000, and it's actually a combination of the DHA and EPA of omega acids, for those that know what that is. It's basically fish oil in a pharmaceutical grade that we put together as a package. So a lot of people come and say, well, just tell me what I want to take. I just want to have it. This is what I want. So I said, these are the 3 pieces you want. Add this to your diet. We can add on the exogenous ketones, and then you got the whole package and you're ready to fly. And I've had great success. I've been using this package that I put together myself for the last 3 years, really, except for the exogenous ketones we added in a year ago. And it dramatically changed the way I feel and how I function. And I'm now like Vicki, the Energizer Bunny. Really, it's awesome. So those are the 3 pieces, Vicki, to come explain that.
Absolutely. And Mary's asking for the link. Mary, you can go to VickiFitch.com/doc and click on that button right there. That's going to show you, that'll get you on that list. And then tomorrow we will send out some links for the things that you guys want and the packages, because we want you to have it all. But I want you guys to know that DocMuscles has put together some special things for those of you who are, and remember, this is not just about weight loss. Adam's actually in the middle of doing a series of 25 reasons other than weight loss that you would want to have your body in ketosis, which is, that fat burning state, including things like, increasing your, and maybe I'm going to get these wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but increasing your metabolism, dealing with blood sugar issues, definitely the swelling and the inflammation. There's so many things that can happen. And so even if you're not trying to lose weight, there are a lot of reasons for you to adjust and put your body there. And so Adam's put these things together. And like I said, I was a little hard pressed kind of getting some of the stuff together. And that was my apologies to him. But that's why you can go to VickiFitch.com/doc. That will put you on his email list, and you can click which items that you're interested in. And that way you'll get that information within the next, 24 to 48 hours. But there's a package there that also will include visits with Doc Nally that you can actually get in tune with what's going on with your body. Now, I know some of you guys haven't checked in with a doctor in a while. All right. I mean, let's face it, right? You haven't. And it's time, right? I know. And we should, but this gives you an opportunity to ask those questions, and it can be personal and private about what's going on with you. Now, I know that some women have experienced better hormonal balance, right, Adam, if I remember correctly, hormonal balance. So if they're going through the change, if they're going through different things, they're having hot flashes, this can also contribute to that. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
No, well, the amazing thing about a ketogenic state or a state where your body's got a higher level of ketones and a lower level of insulin is that it actually helps men balance testosterone and women balance estrogen more effectively. And there's, I've got thousands of patients clinically that I've seen that with, and there's data that shows that affects. So the amazing thing about a ketone is that of all of the cool hormones in our body, this is the only molecule that really acts both as a food and as a hormone at the same time. So the ketone actually helps to balance a number of those hormones. And that's the really amazing thing, is that when you shift into using this fuel as more of a primary fuel, you start to balance these female hormones, these male hormones, and we see improvement that way. We see improvement in inflammation tremendously. And I'm doing, like I said, 25 different podcasts, or not podcasts, but little videos about all these different pieces that ketone helps, because it's so powerful. It really is.
Well, and I think that's what people want. They want to have hope. They want to understand that there's a reason and that they can be healthier. It doesn't have to be about weight loss, and, most Americans, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but most Americans do have a few extra pounds that they would like to lose. It doesn't mean you necessarily need to, but for those of you that don't, it's okay. This is still a really good thing for you. And so one last question, and then we're going to go into kind of our wrap up here. We have about 7 more minutes. Gina said she has organic coconut sugar that is unrefined, low glycemic, and certified fair trade. Does that change your opinion at all?
Unfortunately, Gina, not in the least. The reason glycemic index basically tells us when your body releases the insulin. Does it release it at the first 30 minutes, or does it release it at the 5th hour? Mm-hmm. A low glycemic index means you still release the insulin, but you do it over a longer period of time. Now, for someone who's not horribly insulin resistant, that you might be able to get away with that. But for someone like me, even if it's a low glycemic index, that means I'm still going to release the same amount of insulin, whether I spike it at 30 minutes or I release it over 2 hours. That same amount of insulin is going to be effective for 12 hours in saying store fat. and that's the problem. So I hate to put it to you that way, but even if it's unrefined, even if it's low, it's low glycemic because it is unrefined. That's the reason, but it's still a sugar.
And when you did that with the store fat, it reminds me of my book, Vic the Bully in your head. That's the store fat. It's kind of the body telling you how you're going to hold on to this stuff. But, Adam, there have been, some really great things. And I know that you do have a website up that's right now. You are changing it, but you feel free to tell people how to get a hold of you. What would you like them to do to connect? We are going to put up your social media card in a minute where they can take a screenshot and know how to follow you all over social media. But is there anything specific that you wanted to tell them of how to reach you and the best way to contact you besides filling that form out so they'll get into your, to your information system so they'll get to know even when you're going live eventually, you'll be able to message them and let them know when you're going live.
Yeah, fill out the message cards. Please go fill it out. I'm going to try to provide you good content. That's what I want. That's my job, and I want to provide good content to you that you can use. That's important. I don't want to fill up your spam box. That's the last thing I want to do. So fill out the card, number one. Number two, I'm on Twitter, so DocMuscles at DocMuscles. You can catch me there. I'm fairly active on Facebook, and so if you message me through Facebook, I try to respond. The big thing that you need to understand is that because I'm a licensed physician, I can't answer individual questions over those mediums. A lot of people will tell me, I'm this tall and I've got these many diseases and I'm taking all these medicines. And I would say be very, very careful because 400,000 people, including, people you don't want to know, will know that information now, even though it's over Messenger or something like that. So you can contact me over Messenger. I will try to respond that way. Don't be offended if you get my autoresponder that says I can't answer individual questions over the internet. Though those are really, we need to set an appointment that way. And so if you register on the page that's at ketonianking.com or Vicki Fitch /doc, we can try to get you ways that you can get some of those questions answered through a real doctor-patient relationship. But I try to respond in some capacity when I can. Sometimes it may take me a day or two, but those are the two ways that you can get to me and really communicate most efficiently or quickly. And then if you register, you're going to get links to an email address that I'll have that we're going to have available that we can try to create a little more secure communication that way too. So there'll be some good things coming. Right now, if you want to read a bunch of good articles about, how does ketogenic diet affect MS and inflammation and diabetes, go to DocMuscles.com now. That site is transitioning and it will be transitioning to a really beautiful page that's being done by Shannon Mattern. She's phenomenal. And Vicky's helping me with a lot of these wonderful pieces. So I would encourage you to consider using Vicky's services at times too, because she's really been integral in all of this. So I appreciate that. But link up on the page, sign up, you'll get some good stuff that way.
Well, and I like that. And I didn't realize that you had done that. I apologize, Adam. So you guys, and Jacques, you've been really good about it. Put ketonianking.com in the chat box. It will lead you to the same place. You're not in the wrong place when it says VickiFitch.com at the top. But again, that is Adam's information. It goes right into his database. It doesn't go into mine. So, we just put that together to make sure you guys had an avenue where you could connect. And I know my listeners and those of you guys who have downloaded this podcast, you guys know that I'm not going to say it unkindly, but that would be rude for us to ask for free advice from somebody, right? Because he's a doctor. He sells his time. So if we were going to get advice from him, we would book an appointment. Absolutely. Because that's what we do. So we have a quick quote that's Adam's, although Adam, I have to tell you, this is a very deep quote. So we're going to pop it up really fast because we do have only 2 minutes. I am a fragment of a mirror whose whole design I do not know. However, with what I have, I can reflect light into the dark places of this world and into the black places in the hearts of men and change some things in some people. Perhaps others may see and do likewise. This is who I am. This is what I do. I was like, wow, we're going to have to absorb that one. And you guys will have to process that later because I know it's heavy and it's wonderful. I want to tell you guys really quick, We are on the hunt for He. If you guys know about my podcast, He Said Red Said on Monday nights. I am looking for somebody witty that knows business that's interested in going head to head with Red. We'd love to have you go to hesaidredsaid.com and you can apply for that position if you guys are interested. Next week or on next Wednesday, we don't have a He Said Red Said on Monday, but next Wednesday I've got Yo Pickles, which is Chelsea Votel, is on as my guest. She's a live streamer influencer, and she's going to be talking about bullying and stuff. She's on the Evict the Bully in Your Head series. So definitely tune in for that. And, then I have Wagner Dos Santos is my next guest on He Said Red Said. So you guys definitely tune in for that. He's an amazing guy as well. And Doc, we're going to pop your card up there, but is there any last words that you want to tell them? And I'm going to pull up the tweet draw while you're doing that really quick. I hope they actually, did go share that out.
Oh, no, thank you. And I appreciate that. I have enjoyed really literally watching Vicki's show. So I know this has been an interview for me, but I want to point some direction back to Vicki and just say, hey, if you have a chance to watch her show and follow her, she's amazing in that she does these interviews with all sorts of variety of people. And so for me, who's a doctor that spends 12 to 16, 18 hours some days in my office, focused on patient charts, to see some interaction with some of these other really cool entrepreneurial people around the world, literally around the world, is a neat forum. So Vicki's kind of a pioneer, and I've patterned a lot of what I've done after some of the things that I watched her do. So please follow her. Check out her He Said Red Said. I went head to head with her one day, and that bitch slap, it kind of hurt. So be careful there.
Oh, you're funny.
but it's a challenge. So there's got to be a guy out there that can do that.
Right. I think you're right, and I think you actually did a really good job. You were some people's favorite, and so we are, like I said, we're pulling some of those things. And I know you're really busy, but you are an excellent candidate, and I really do appreciate the kind words and the kudos. Because we're short on time, instead of turning this camera around, I did do the tweet draw, and we didn't say that somebody who has already won couldn't win, and so it is Stacy Lynn Hart from Bible News Radio that won our drawing for tonight. So I have your information, Stacy, and you are one of the rock stars too, so we can make sure that you get those exogenous ketones from DocMuscles and start to check out and see if you want to put your body in ketosis. Otherwise, maybe Randall does, or this has been such an amazing interview. I really appreciate it, and Adam, thank you for everything you do for the community, for the live streaming community, for health, the health factors. I mean, you are just such a great example of someone who wants to give back and who wants to share and contribute and to be a really solid citizen. And so I really appreciate that. We're going to pop up his information. You guys take a screenshot of this so you can connect with Adam. And then I'm going to do a quick, I'm just going to kind of quickly go over to quick things. For those of you guys who don't know me, by the way, my name is Vicki Fitch. I am a direct sales expert. I've been in the industry 20 years, top 10 sales and recruiting internationally for more than a decade. I've also built and sold 4 companies. I'm an author, a speaker, and an international business consultant, helping you get outside what I call the 5,000 to turn your passion into your profits. If you guys are looking for a speaker or someone to help or a coach to level up, you can go to VickiFitch.com/20. I would love to help you. I'd love for you to consider me as a speaker for you. And until next time, I want to remind you, like I always do, to dream it, believe it, and achieve it. Ciao.